Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Well, good morning. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. As you can see, Winston is out traveling today, so I'll be with you. My name is Stan Kirkland, and I'll be with you today. Today is August the 19th, Thursday. The weather's brought to us by Gulf Coast Air Conditioning. That's Drew Pollard and the folks up in Southport. By the way, Drew's one of our sponsors for our annual turkey banquet. The high today is 90 degrees. The low is 75. Sunrise, I don't know if Winston normally gives that, but it was at 6:12 this morning. River readings are brought to us by Mountain Dew on the outdoors. Mountain Dew is also a Buffalo Rock's also a sponsor for our turkey banquet. A shameless plug there. The Apalachicola River reading at Bluntstown is 11 feet and climbing some. Choctawhatchee River at Kerrville is 9 feet and expected to go a little higher. Folks, we've had a lot of rain and these rivers are really, they're on the up. The good news is they will start to decline next week, but they are still on the up, are still increasing. Tides are brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home. The Panama City high tide today was at 7:06 this morning, or will be at 7:06 this morning. Low is at 6:17 this evening. That's about a 2-foot tide change. Anytime you get a 1.5 foot tide change or more, that's a great time to fish. So that's good. The Port St. Joe high tide is at 7:25 this morning. That's Eastern Standard Time. Low at 8:14 this evening, again Eastern Standard Time. That's a 2.2 foot tide change. And again, if you like to fish for near shore species like trout, flounder, redfish, good time to go. The marine forecast today, we still are in this typical afternoon pattern where we're going to have stray thunder showers. They're still possible. About a 25% chance of rain today. Wind will be out of the west, southwest, 5 to 10 miles an hour. And the water temperature is holding pretty steady at about 86 degrees. It had been up, I think, a degree or two, but it's about 86 degrees, and I guess that owes to that tropical storm that came in earlier in the week. With that, we're going to take our first break right now. Well, welcome back to Panhandle Outdoors. Again, Winston is out today, and I'm Stan Kirkland, your host. One of the things I wanted to start off with is mention about our annual wild turkey banquet. We usually, Ken Paramore is sitting here to my left, which would be, I guess, the right for viewers. But Ken and I always talk about the banquet, and we're always excited about it because it's a fundraiser for the National Wild Turkey Federation. And it's a pure event. I mean, there's nothing I think people could find to that be objectionable about it. But anyway, the banquet had to be put on hold last week. It was scheduled last week. It had to be put on hold. And the obvious reason is because of COVID numbers here in our area. The COVID numbers are just going out of sight. And, the last thing we wanted to do was to endanger anyone. So we had to put that on hold. I can't thank enough our sponsors. We haven't canceled it, not yet. But we've put everything on hold. I can't thank enough, first of all, the church, Panama City First United Methodist Church. They've been just great to deal with. I can't say enough nice things about them. They've been, whatever we need, they've been there. Their chef, they've just been very, very nice to deal with about this whole thing. The sponsors, we had 20 24 sponsors. I mentioned Drew Pollard with Gulf Coast Air Conditioning and the folks out at Buffalo Rock. There's countless other sponsors, and I'm fixing to get in trouble by forgetting to name others, but I had already mentioned those folks here in being sponsors for other things here. But there are a lot of sponsors, and they make this happen every year. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we've been, or actually since back in 2015, we've been able to send, it's a sizable amount of money we've been able to send to the National Wild Turkey Federation for wild turkey work, for wild turkey research. That money goes for a variety of things, and we have every intention of being able to hopefully do that again this year. But right now things are on hold. That money and this putting everything on hold comes at a really critical time, because right now there's a decline in wild turkey numbers in some of the southern states. I saw recently where Alabama is on a suspect list for numbers of birds declining. Georgia, in fact, there's a research project going on in Georgia right now where researchers are looking at some of the root causes for birds declining. And I think in the low country, South Carolina, North Carolina, perhaps, and I don't know about Tennessee, but I suspect, and now let me single out Florida. I haven't heard anything about Florida that we've got a drop in turkey numbers. The biggest issue we face here in Florida, obviously, is people moving into the state and development and that sort of thing. So it's called loss of habitat. So you can't lose habitat and have bird numbers go out of sight. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to have the habitat for them. So with that being said, the money that is raised by the various chapters around the country that goes to the National Wild Turkey Federation, and chapters like ours here, the Bay County Longbeards, goes to fund research. And it's research for everything that you can imagine, but it goes back to the Fish and Wildlife Agency in those states to be used for things such as controlled burning or check stations on public lands. It doesn't go to private lands, but it does go to where wild turkeys are managed on public lands. So with that being said, we've had to delay things, but hopefully we will be able to come back with a date soon if numbers decline. Let's take our next break right now. It's hard to, welcome back, folks. It's hard to believe, but hunting season is just around the corner. I know it's still hot, it's muggy, it's humid. It's the last morning or the last few mornings, it's just been, it's like, when will the summer weather ever end? But again, hunting season just around the corner. Whether you're living in this part of the country, we don't see it. But antelope season opens in August out in some of the, we don't have antelope obviously, but out in some of the western states. We do have people from this part of the country that go out there and participate in antelope seasons. But the antelope season's open. Oregon, I'm a scorer for all of your big game species, and the Roosevelt elk, which is basically a Rocky Mountain elk found in Oregon on the coast there, that season opens up, I think it's August the 25th, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then it's like the 1st of September when the regular seasons for elk open in some of these western states. I think Colorado, not sure about Idaho, but some of these other states, Montana, it opens up roughly in that same time span. Speaking of which, I know people have enough to do, but I want to mention something to you. If you like to go to YouTube and you like to watch videos, hunting videos particularly, I want to tell you about a group of guys that you may watch. These are Christian guys. I love watching them. They're called the Born and Raised Outdoors Hunting, Born and Raised Outdoors Crew. and they're out of Oregon. And these guys are, I think they're all in their 40s, but they love to archery hunt for elk. And they have a whole series, every season they have put on video that you can now watch if you want to watch them. They have one season called Committed, then they have another season called Land of the Free, which then they had, that was in, I think, 2017 was the original Land of the Free, and then 2018 was Land of the Free 2.0, and then it was next year was Land of the Free 3.0. But the point is they will produce anywhere from 30 to 40, 50 videos based on their hunts in these various states, and they do it all by bow and arrow. There's no gun hunting in these. Now they have some gun hunts later for mule deer and other kinds of animals, but they're very entertaining to watch. They backpack in a lot of the time, and they will like we hike up on the Appalachian Trail where we wear a pack on our back. These guys will pack in. They take water filters. They do all the same things we do. They're just in mountainous country, and of course the elk are rutting then, and so the elk are bugling. So they take bugle tubes and all of this kind of stuff. But if you want to watch something entertaining, go to the website or go to the site for these guys. It's called Born and Raised Outdoors. You will get hooked if you start watching these guys. They're really entertaining to watch. Speaking of elk and deer and antelope and things like this, I want to mention something. There is a I don't want this to be a downer necessarily, but there's a problem in this country with a disease that affects our cervids. That's deer, mule deer, elk, antelope, those kinds of things. And it's called chronic wasting disease, CWD. We do not have CWD in Florida. It's not in Alabama. It's not in Georgia. It has been found, excuse me, in the northern part of Mississippi. I believe it has been found in Tennessee. It's Missouri. It's found in a lot of your western states. And chronic wasting disease is sometimes called the zombie disease in cervids or deer. And it was originally discovered back in the 60s in Colorado in a captive deer herd. It was, I think it was in the 80s, I think it was 1981 or so, when it was first found in a wild population of deer. And again, I think it was in Colorado, but since then, it has grown well outside of that. And typically what has happened is people that farm deer, that have these high fences that grow deer and sell the deer, and I'm not talking about people that have high fences right around here. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about in other parts of the country where they grow these deer and then sell them. The disease has been introduced, and by the way, it's not a virus. It is not a bacteria. It's called a prion or neurological disease, but it is 100% fatal to those animals that contracted the disease. And so once it gets started, it gets in the soil. They're not certain of all the transmission routes, but probably one animal feeds where another animal has gone to the bathroom, and so you're dealing with, it's just a nightmare to deal with. They have tried everything in Michigan, Wisconsin. They've tried eradicating deer over large areas, which just sends shivers through people. But thankfully, we don't have it here in Florida. And kudos to FWC. I used to work for the agency and I'm proud to have worked with them. I'm retired now. But FWC, Fish and Wildlife here in Florida, has a very active program where they monitor to look for it. And so far, it's never been found. They have both an active and a passive program. In other words, they collect animals that they look for animals that might be sick to collect, but they also collect heads from animals. And there's really no way to check a live animal. It has to be an animal that's been harvested through some legal means, and whether doe or buck, and then they go in and they look to see if that disease is in that animal. So thankfully, so far, it has not been found here in the state. One thing that people sometimes get concerned about is all the hoops they have to go through if they want to purchase deer to bring in and put in. And this is, I can't emphasize enough, it's the reason that there are stringent rules about moving deer not only within a state but outside of a state is because of this very disease. Those animals have to be rigorously tested. There's not a good way to do that in the wild, though, certainly. So anyway, chronic wasting disease is something you're going to continue to hear about. Well, folks, let's take our next break now, our final break, and we will be right back with you. Well, welcome back, folks. Glad you're with us this morning for this final segment on Panhandle Outdoors. One of the things, if you live in this area, that you can benefit from is the scallop season. We have a scallop season that's pretty well publicized. It is found we have it in Gulf County, and you can actually go over in St. Joe Bay right now. It started earlier this week, I believe on Monday of this week, and goes until late September the 26th, if I'm not mistaken. But you can, each person, the bag limit's pretty liberal. You can take up to 2 gallons per person, which is about a pint of shuck meat if you want to shuck them out. And then, but the total bag limit for the boat is depending on the number of people you have, is 10 gallons in the shell or a half a gallon of meat, but you're not allowed to exceed your individual bag limit. So again, one person is allowed 2 gallons of whole scallops. You got to have a dive flag. You need to stay pretty close to where that dive flag is, and the purpose is to keep somebody from running over you. You don't want that to happen. You don't want somebody coming up there in a boat not seeing the dive flag and injuring. And believe me, that's happened. We actually had that to happen over in, I want to say it was at in Swanee, over off, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the place now, but I believe it was in Swanee County, there on the coast there a couple of years ago, or a few years ago. So anyway, stay close. The scallops, the way that there's a prediction made on scallop numbers, whether you know this or not. And the way that that's done, it's not a prediction, it's actually a science. The folks at FMRI, Florida Marine Research Institute, which is part of FWC, they actually go in and they do these transects, and they have these transects of the same transects that they do year after year after year. And they do this in all the areas where they have scallop season. And they'll actually go in and then they will put divers in the water in, I think it's in June and in July, just before the season opens, and they will count the number of scallops that they see based on these transects. And I don't know how many transects they have in St. Joe Bay. I think Winston's been out with them before and actually film them doing this, but they count those. And so if you go into some of the websites and look, you'll see past years, you'll see numbers, and that's where these numbers and that's where the predictions come from, is based on what they're seeing. So again, it's pretty neat. Scallops are great to eat, and one thing to keep in mind, at the beginning of the season, scallops tend to be a little smaller. So if you go right now, they're not going to be as large and what you're eating, of course, is the mussel, but you're not going to see as large as scallops as you would a little later. But anyway, funny note, I had a friend down there a few years ago in St. Joe Bay that was on a kayak, and he was sitting there lounging, and he had no idea there was anything around him. And while he was sitting there with his feet dangling in the water off the kayak, a manatee a big manatee came up and with that whiskered nose touched his, or I say whiskered, I guess they're called whiskers, but anyway, touched his foot. And he was talking about sharks to somebody there. And I think he jumped off his kayak and probably said his Sunday school lesson backwards. But anyway, so, but it was a manatee. So they do have them down there. Let me also mention to you right now, alligator hunting season is on here in Florida. You're apt to see, if you live on a water body, you're apt to see these guys. They're out, or I say guys and gals. They're out this time of year. There's alligator numbers, or alligators are hunted both during this, and they're also hunted during this public time. They're also hunted by people on private wetlands, or you can go to where there are private wetlands here in the state, and some of these bigger owners will also have permits. So Florida, interestingly enough, has the second highest number of alligator permits of any state in the nation. And I probably don't have to tell you, but of course, obviously Louisiana is number one. They have the highest number. But anyway, you're apt to see these folks out right now, and they will be out, and there are segments of time that are allocated for each one of them. Finally, let me mention this. People are wanting to get out and fish right now, and rightfully so. If I was a freshwater fisherman and I was looking for a place, any in these inland counties where you want to go, I would look at some of your ponds and some of your lakes right now to go fishing, because the water level is so high in some of these creeks and rivers right now. Unless if you catfish, you're probably okay in some of the rivers, because catfish will bite on either a steady or rising flow. But anything else for brim fishing, it's really tough. It'd be tough right now in some of these creeks and rivers. Again, go and as I mentioned before, try fishing at night. Use a big jitterbug and try that at night, because it's a wonderful way to fish. Folks, I think we're out of time. So if you would, come back and watch us again tomorrow. Thanks.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.